It is hour 2 of OverDrive here on TSN 1050. We're live on TSN 2. I'm Aaron Korolnek. Usually I host First Up here on TSN Radio from 6 to 10 a.m. Here with my man Frank Corrado for the next couple of hours. And what a couple of hours we have in store for the audience. Frank, Chris Rose from the NFL Network, the Chris Rose Rotation Podcast. He'll join us in a couple minutes. Chad Kelly of the Argos. Michelle Beadle coming up. Michael Fabiano ahead of our fantasy football draft this evening. Does it get any better, Frank?
There might be an agenda behind some of the questions being asked to Michael Fabiano.
What do you think about Breece Hall and this? Like, I've got my cheat sheet out here, Michael. How can you help us?
Dude, if I see you pull out a cheat sheet, I'm going to reach across this table and smack you.
Please don't do that.
Grappler's got something going for
Grappler
sure
and JP, these guys have been doing mock drafts all afternoon. They are. There could be. They might actually only have one team, and they'll manage it separately. Oh, what a trade. Another deal between the Grappler and JP.
Yeah,
what a coincidence.
We'll split the pot. No problem.
Please don't reach over to the table and smack me, Frank, because I need to remain healthy for the TSN Fall Classic. We just got the email here internally. The big ball hockey tournament here
Playing
live.
in it?
No, absolutely not. I'm far too old and frail and brittle to play any sports except golf. And if I were to partake, like instantaneously quad strain, done.
Yeah, you can't.
Calf strain over, groin torn.
Two things.
Hamstring broken.
You need to be going to the gym every day. And at that point, there's still some golf to be played. Like, we still have about a month at that point where we can still be teeing it. And in fact, that is arguably the most critical month of golf because there's no more golf after that for at least 6 months.
Oh, God, stop talking about that.
So you can't have a month being decreased off your golf time.
You're right. But it's only like 4 weeks away. Maybe I could ramp up my training, really get the stretching, the acupuncture, some yoga.
And then you can join our 1050 team. Stephanie Eppolito, our boss, put in a team for us last year. And a bunch of the interns, when they were interns, a.k.a. Josh, now producers. Josh is a very good ball hockey player.
You must just be a dominant force on the back end, no?
Dude,
no one's taking the puck off.
You talk about injuries. Like, you think I wanted to get hurt playing ball hockey on the cement? No. I was like barely moving.
Your knees.
If the ball came to me, that was great. If it didn't, then so be it.
I remember Koliakovo in his first year after he retired from the NHL, joined us here at TSN. Like, he came out in this ball hockey tournament just dominating everybody. And he was a really accomplished ball hockey player prior to suiting up on the ice. Like, he was one of the best players in the country. Yeah. When it came to ball hockey, and then they're like, maybe you want to make some money playing the sport. Yeah. Better lace up the skates and figure out how to play that way. And of course, we know what he's able to do in the NHL. But make Carlo and Frankie as a D pair. Like, who's scoring on you guys?
Defense is what we would do. I would use like an extra long stick, just be poking things away. You can go cherry pick. You and Josh. Josh was a good provincial ball hockey player.
Dude, if you and Coco are suiting up, I'm in. And I would be an asset. I've got some skills. I can pick some corners.
I'm telling you right now, I'll play.
No chance Carlo's playing.
The ball is in Carlo's court.
Yeah.
If he wants to, I'm in.
Yeah. All right. This is very exciting. We could put together a powerhouse here. The O-Dog, Noodles, and Nets.
Yeah.
Hayes, great hockey player.
I wonder if Hayes would play.
Yeah. I'm going to guess not. It is a 10 a.m. start for the ball hockey Grappler and JP. That could be our second D pair.
Could have a really good team.
That sounds like a star-studded team.
Stephanie Eppolito would be our coach.
Oh, what a coach! Great leadership.
Yeah,
like Scotty Bowman, basically.
Yes,
that's the equivalent. She is Scotty Bowman. That is the first. That's the first name that came to my mind.
Where does J-Mac fit into all this?
Jeff McDonald, our boss, he needs to focus on his golf game.
Yeah.
After what happened earlier this week at TPC Osprey Valley.
Well, you're familiar with the new Golf Canada update in the app?
Yes,
you can have like a profile picture and all that kind of stuff. Have you seen J-Mac's profile picture?
I believe it is Tiger Woods.
It's Tiger Woods.
In 2019 on the 18th green at Augusta
Scully's
National.
got like a nice picture of himself. I got a picture of myself on a tee box. I don't think you have a picture up yet.
I don't.
But J-Mac has Tiger Woods.
Listen, he's a Tiger super fan.
Yeah.
We're all hopeful that Tiger makes a full recovery.
Yeah.
No one more so than our boss, Jeff McDonald.
Do you miss the mornings? You missing the 6 till 10 a.m. show?
It's funny because last night I went to sleep at the same time I traditionally would for the morning show. I'm asleep at like 10 o'clock. I wake up today at like 6:45, and I'm like, wow, what am I going to do with my day? This is truly fantastic. One thing I did do was check out Chris Rose's Rotation podcast, something I do with regularity. You know him from the NFL Network as well. It's Chris Rose back on OverDrive, joining us now on the Maple Toyota hotline. What's up, Chris?
All is well. How you guys doing?
We're excellent. Now, this time yesterday, we were talking a lot about the Toronto Blue Jays coming off their 7-0 win over Washington. Of course, the night prior, it was very difficult with the whole no pinch running for Alejandro Kirk. But last night, you're watching the Texas Rangers, Chris, and Aroldis Chapman just beaning guys with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 10th inning. And you're thinking, maybe, just maybe, Texas could implode to the point where the Jays have a realistic chance of surpassing them. What is your level of expectation on the Rangers and, in turn, the Toronto Blue Jays right now?
Well, the good news is it's more than just the Rangers, right? I mean, even though Houston looks like they're kind of revving up the engine to go on an interesting September run, I would be shocked if the Mariners repeat their performance from August, right? So it's not just Texas that Blue Jay fans should keep their eye on here. Plus, they all play one another. So they all can't win on the same night down the stretch in a lot of these games. Obviously Texas is the one that's not only struggling, but, boy, it's the bullpen. And when you lose games when your bullpen can't close things out late, it's almost like suffering 2 losses in a single night. They've saved less than half of their save opportunities, which is just, you never hear that out of a winning team. So it might be a tough go for Bruce Bochy and his crew, but we'll see. As for Toronto, it's been really interesting, right? Because they didn't do a ton at the deadline. You look at the team, and I thought they had the fewest holes out of any American League contender, to be honest with you. I mean, I could have poked holes in just about any other team. I looked at Toronto, and I was like, well, Ryu's coming back in the second half, and, they've got really good players just about everywhere. They should be fine. And for whatever reason, whenever they seem to get it going, it's not like they win 7 out of 9 or something like that. They might have been 3 out of 5 or, 4 out of 6. But it's weird. I've expected more out of the Jays, and they just haven't done it yet.
So we're at the point in the season now where you're almost attaching certain labels to teams. And I'm wondering if this one fits the Blue Jays, where it's like, they're just that team you don't want to see in the playoffs, or they're that team, they just need to get in, and you never know what can happen from there. Like, do the Blue Jays fit the criteria for any of those labels?
Well, here's the thing about the American League. Like, if you were to say, who's the team to beat in the American League, do you have a clear, definitive choice right now?
I'm going to go Baltimore.
Yeah, but even them, they're so young and unproven.
Well, yeah, they are, but that could be advantageous too. I mean, I don't love the rotation necessarily, and I know Bautista is out probably the rest of the season.
Well, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't just kind of gloss over that because he is far and away been the most dependable closer, and I mean, he's an animal out there. Just physically, he's huge, and he's been great the last 2 years. So, Cano has been a great story this year, has been a little bit better lately, but the second half's been a struggle for him. And Fuji coming over from Oakland, got great stuff, but he walks a ton of guys. So I thought actually the guys who ended up going to my team in Cleveland would have helped them out immensely. They were never going to make it that far, all the way down in the waiver claim. But Baltimore's got questions. Houston, I think that if Fromber throws the way he has in his last 2 starts, then they're the team to beat. But there's still a lot of questions, right? Nobody will count on the AL Central game, whether it's Minnesota, whom it's most likely to be, or Cleveland. Tampa, you look at it and you're like, well, of course, they're probably not going to have Wander Franco, their best player, the rest of the year. And then, they keep losing guys left and right on the mound. So there's a ton of question marks. So with the Jays, it is a little bit of the just win to get in, and we'll take our shot because they're as talented as anyone.
Chris Rose is our guest from the Chris Rose Rotation podcast. You mentioned your team in Cleveland who claimed 3 guys today, and Cleveland's still on the outside looking in. A possibility, a very slight one remains, that they could chase down the Minnesota Twins, and make the playoffs. What was your reaction as a ardent supporter of the Guardians, Chris, the moves they made today and the support for Terry Francona?
I was really surprised. I think a lot of people just look at it and they say, well, hold on, weren't they sellers at the deadline? Yes, but you can't grade these two times the same way, right? They traded for a top 40 prospect when they dealt Aaron Savali to the Rays. At the beginning of the year, you would never have gotten a top 40 prospect for Aaron Savali based on the season he was coming off of. With Josh Bell, $1 million and getting out from underneath the contract for next year. So those, even though you might not have agreed with the moves at the time because they were actually leading the division, I believe, it made sense. Like you understood it. Here, this is just, you're just adding salary. You're not giving up anything. So I was surprised because they're 5 games back. You'll know by next Wednesday whether or not it's a good move, in my opinion. Cleveland is home against Tampa this weekend. I believe Minnesota's at Texas, and then Minnesota's in Cleveland for the beginning of next week for a 3-game series, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So by next Wednesday afternoon, if Cleveland's within three games, then you could say, all right, it was worth a shot. And if they're 7 games back, then you're going to say, well, they just paid a lot of extra money to just kind of play out the season. So I think by next week you'll know.
Chris, taking a look at 2 teams that are sure to miss the playoffs this year, the Yankees and the Angels, there's no doubting that every offseason there's a lot of noise surrounding the Yankees, no matter how they do. But specifically this year, with Cashman, with Boone, with the underachieving roster. But when you look at the Angels, there's going to be a lot of noise around that team as well. They're probably not going to be able to re-sign Ohtani. At some point, does Mike Trout, even though he's always injured, ask for a trade? Like for you, going into this offseason, where's more noise going to be? Out in L.A. or in New York?
Well, the noise in L.A. is really just a one-person sound, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they could get rid of Perry Manassian, but I don't know if that does anything. Like, guy hasn't been there long enough to turn around a farm system. Granted, he just got rid of a bunch of guys for dudes that aren't even on the team anymore, for the most part. But all that has to deal with Shohei Ohtani. I don't think Mike Trout's going to ask out, certainly not this offseason. If after another year, he shows that he's healthy and is like, listen, I've had enough. I'm ready to move my family somewhere else. Then we might have that discussion. I don't think that's one for this offseason. But with the Yankees, I don't think Aaron Boone will go anywhere, nor should he, in my opinion. With Cashman and the front office, I do think they have to take a serious look at how they're doing things. Because to me, there's a lot more questions about that franchise than answers. Garrett Cole's an answer. Aaron Judge is an answer. I think that Anthony Volpe's an answer. And other than that, there's questions. Rodon, health. How are they going to figure out the rest of their rotation? Is Anthony Rizzo now at this point a back half of the lineup sort of guy? Can you count on DJ LeMahieu moving forward? Is he the second half guy we've seen under new hitting coach Sean Casey? Or is he the first half guy who couldn't get anything done? There's a ton of questions about the Yankees, and I think part of it has to do with the organization.
Chris Rose is our guest from the NFL Network. He's the host of the Chris Rose Rotation podcast. I want to get your take on a debate we were having off the air, Chris. Better chance to bounce back after an objectively terrible season. Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns or Russell Wilson with the Denver Broncos?
Well, I am hoping since I'm a Browns fan, and just did their preseason schedule on television. Well, I would feel good if I was a Denver fan because of your coach. I just would. I think that I know you're in the division with the defending Super Bowl champs, and the Chargers are, really talented too. But I think the Browns are actually in the most competitive division in the entire NFL. Watson's really interesting. I spent a lot of time with him before last week's game against Kansas City. And we talked to him about if last year, coming back off of the suspension, how it compared to playing in the NFL his rookie year. And he said it was actually much more difficult last year. When he started as a rookie, remember, he didn't start game one, he started game two. But Bill O'Brien, then the coach of the Texans, already had the offense tailored to Deshaun Watson, what he did well, how they could use a rookie and make him feel comfortable. And he played great before blowing out his knee mid-season. And Deshaun said last year was very challenging for him because Kevin Stefanski had to design an offense 2/3 of the season for a guy whose skill set is totally different than Deshaun's, and that's Jacoby Brissett. And Deshaun wasn't upset about it. He said, listen, I get it. You know, they were playing the first 11 games without me. So here I come. There's an offense that's got plays for me, but not an entire offense that is best suited for me. So I was doing things I wasn't comfortable with, and I wasn't doing them right. And he said it was really challenging. So now they've kind of designed the offense for him. And I'll be fascinated to see how it works. They've got a lot of skill players. They've spent the most cash of anybody in the NFL to make this team really good on both sides of the ball. So I am maybe trying to speak this into existence that it'll be Watson.
Well, you talk about both sides of the ball. Taking a look at the defensive side of the ball, going out to San Francisco, they can't possibly be serious about trading Nick Bosa, can they? Like,
No.
Defensive Player of the Year, but they haven't been able to get a contract done, and now the word trade seems to come up. That can't be a real thing, can it?
Well, I mean, Kyle Shanahan kind of shot that down yesterday, didn't he? I mean, he said we're not in the market of doing that. And he and John Lynch really work hand in hand about as well as any head coach personnel guy does. So I don't think that's going to happen. I just think there's
Chris, I hate to interrupt you. You're going full robot. Sometimes the full robot happens. We're going to call Chris back in just a moment. Can you imagine they were to trade Bosa? And I understand the contractual demands that he has. He's worthy of. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, if not the best. Chris Jones out in Kansas City is facing the same thing. He's arguably a Hall of Fame player. He's had that type of career. And those two players are looking at it. Listen, everyone else is getting paid around the NFL. But I want mine too.
It's pretty simple. When a player is that good and that dominant, the number is the number, and you just have to pay it if you're the team. Like TJ Watt is $28 million a year in Pittsburgh. Like that's the baseline for Nick Bosa at this point.
Well, that's it. And we see TJ Hawkinson sign a new deal that's become the NFL's highest paid tight end. And you're looking at TJ Hawkinson's the number one.
Travis Kelce probably looks at that and says, all right, my number just went up. Thanks.
I don't doubt it at all. Is that kind of how the league is trending, Chris, in your estimation, as you're back on the line with us now? I mean, you think about seemingly every position seems to one-up themselves except one, and running back. So you're looking at Hawkinson as the tight end, and maybe Bosa and Jones are looking at it like, all right, time for me to get mine.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how the way it should work, right? I mean, when it's your time, it's your time. I mean, these guys mostly get one huge bite at the apple. And they might get a second contract somewhere. Like, Chris Jones is coming off a 4-year, $80 million deal, which is pretty good. But he's just coming off arguably his best year and a championship. And if they don't have him, I mean, you can forget it, right? It's Mahomes, Jones, Kelce. It's that triumvirate. If one of those guys is gone, they're in deep trouble. I mean, the fact that they were able to win the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, I think speaks to the importance of those three guys, that they knew they would have to take care of those three moving forward and kind of fill in the rest. So I get it. I understand it. Some guys you can keep the car moving and leave them on the side of the road. Big 95 in that case and Big 97 in San Francisco, those aren't two of the guys I'm leaving behind.
Chris, how do you think the Jonathan Taylor situation plays out with Indianapolis? Any chance he ever plays a game again for the Colts?
Gosh, that one I really don't get, because it feels like Indianapolis bit its own hand by putting him on PUP, right? Because now if he gets traded, he can't be activated off that until 4 games have passed. So if you're trading for Jonathan Taylor, you have to be 100% certain that you can get an extension done with him. If not, you're trading for him for 3/4 of the season, and then he walks. Like, that's not what I want to do for the most part. You could always do, hey, we give him a third-round pick that turns into a second-round pick, depending on the number of yards or whatever it is that he gets, right, to kind of incentivize that deal. That's possible, but I don't know how it got this bad. I really don't.
Chris, you know the AFC North maybe better than anyone because you're, very familiar with the Cleveland Browns. Taking a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, very decorated head coach. You look at the quarterback they have now in Kenny Pickett, who's looking to emerge. Is there any chance the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they stay healthy, take another step this year? Or is it as simple as Kenny Pickett is the fourth best quarterback in that division, and that's exactly where they're going to finish because of it?
No. I mean, I don't look at it as though the question is, how good does Pickett have to be in order for them to get to where they want to go? And I don't think he has to be as good as Deshaun Watson has to be in Cleveland, Lamar Jackson has to be in Baltimore, and certainly Joe Burrow has to be in Cincinnati. So there's a lot more wiggle room there. This team won 9 games last year with a rookie quarterback and Mitchell Trubisky playing the first 3 weeks. Like, they won 9 games. And, oh, by the way, T.J. Watt didn't play half the year. So I don't put anything past Mike Tomlin as a coach. I don't put anything past Pittsburgh as an organization. I know you don't want to be the team that won the offseason, but to me, virtually every move they made in free agency and the draft made sense for where their deficiencies were. The question is, will that offensive line be good enough? Will they be able to run the football when they need to? Other than that, I mean, I think Kenny Pickett's going to be fine. Do I think he's going to be a star? No, I don't think he's going to be a star. But I think I think they're one of the few teams that could win a Super Bowl without elite quarterback play. And that's saying something these days.
1 week tonight, fellas. The Chiefs and the Lions. The NFL is almost back. You can see Chris's work at the NFL Network. Again, the host of the Chris Rose Rotation podcast. Always great to have you on the program, Chris. Thank you for doing this.
I appreciate it, guys. And a quick reminder, we also have a daily podcast called Baseball Today. I do it with former Twins third baseman Trevor Plouffe. It's an easy half-hour listen, in and out, your 5 topics that are happening on a given day. Give that one a listen. It's a growing podcast for us, and we appreciate the support.
Consider it done. Chris Rose here on OverDrive. Thank you. His appearance on OverDrive brought to you by the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. When you were with the Leafs, Frank, was there a fantasy football league that you guys played in?
There was a fantasy football league with some players on our team, players on other teams. I was never involved in that.
Really? Not invited?
I didn't ask. It was just, yeah.
That must be a big part of the day-to-day. As you're in camp, you're doing your drafts week to week.
All guys would talk about. All guys. Like, anytime we were on the bus, driving to a hotel, it's all guys would talk about. If you're not a part of it, you're just like, it's.
Well, it must be terrible if you're not a part of it. Yeah. Because that's all, like, you go out for dinner with the boys and they're like, all right, man, Thursday night, the Chiefs, I have Kelsey, I have Pacheco.
And then they got the group chat with the guys from other teams too, and it's always going off. And guys are talking, oh, did you hear what Franny, like Cody Franzen was in? You hear what Franny said?
Franzen. Yeah, you're like left out of the group chat. There's nothing worse. When you find out that your friends have an alternate group chat that you're not a part of, not that this has ever happened to me because, of course, I'm the proprietor of the group chats. Right. Love starting a good group chat. Yeah. It is very disconcerting.
Our group chat just went off. I don't know if you saw that. The boys were talking about how nice your green suit is today.
Really?
Yes.
I have the group chat on mute. I'm trying to do a live radio program here. Yeah. Sorry, fellas. We'll get to it at 7
There's a certain level of professionalism we need to sustain here.
I'm also proficient at CFL fantasy, believe it or not. And the reason I'm so proficient is because I've had our next guest on my team all year long. He is the quarterback of the Toronto Argonauts, the 8-1 Toronto Argonauts. And he has a brand spanking new contract. The highest paid player in the Canadian Football League, Chad Kelly, will join us next. All right. Hayes Noodles and the O-Dog will be back on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Today you've got myself, Aaron Korolnek, and Frank Corrado. We'll talk to Chad Kelly, the quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts in just a moment, fresh off signing a 3-year extension, making him the highest paid player in the Canadian Football League. Frank, when you signed your big ticket in the NHL, your biggest ticket, do you remember that night, what you did?
To
celebrate?
I do remember. And
what was going on?
It was not a big ticket. It was a very small size ticket.
Relatively.
In NHL. Yeah, relative to NHL standards. Yeah. It was the 1-year extension I signed with the Leafs one day prior to arbitration, and ended up going out for dinner with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and my agent, Joe Resnick, and his family. We went out for dinner in Yorkville. It was a great night.
Wow, very nice. Yeah, I mean,
shout out to Joe.
We love Joe. We're big fans. We're big fans of Joe Resnick on this program.
Actually, a great restaurant that's no longer there anymore. It was originally right above Soto, and then became its own place, Evo, and I don't think it's there anymore.
That's very sad. That's very
great
sad.
Restaurant,
you never like to hear restaurants go away because you've got great memories there.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that was
and we
a
ate
great
there
memory.
afterwards, too, a bunch of times.
Well, I mean, you went to that delightful restaurant in Yorkville after signing your big contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. What has Chad Kelly got going on tonight? I'm sure he and the Argos are preparing for the Hamilton Ticats on Monday. Let's welcome him into the program. It's Chad Kelly with us here on OverDrive. Congratulations, Chad.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me.
Where's dinner tonight in Yorkville, Chad?
I wish it was. I actually have a beautiful girlfriend who cooks a lot, so I'm waiting. I have a nice steak and good meal waiting on me when I get home.
So you signed this great contract. Again, congratulations. So good for you. So good for the Toronto Argonauts and for the Canadian Football League. You have something in mind that you want to buy, treat yourself beyond a big dinner, like anything you've been eyeing for a while?
Myself, no. I'd rather buy for other people. I get more pleasure out of pleasing, people close to me than myself. So, when this deal got done a couple days ago, I went and bought some diamonds for my girlfriend.
Oh, very nice.
Smart move.
Veteran move from Chad Kelly in his second year in the Canadian Football League, again leading the 8-1 Toronto Argonauts, just having an outstanding season. And I am curious, Chad, how a deal like this comes together. How long did it take the negotiations between your representation and the Toronto Argonauts to come to this 3-year extension?
Yeah, well, we kind of been going at it for, I'd say, since the start of the season, really. And, I think I just kept the faith that I was going to keep on playing good. I knew we had a great team, great O-line, great receiving core, and obviously a fantastic run game. So I kind of knew that as long as I kept playing, pretty good and we kept on winning, I thought that the price would keep on going up. And, I bet that, it would, and it did. And, I'm just super proud of, our team to be able to get me to this point. I only have to do so much, right? And just get the ball to them, and, everything else happens, externally. So I think it was just an awesome time the past couple of weeks to be able to capitalize on where we are as a team right now.
Chad, you played college football at Clemson, at Ole Miss. You had a really accomplished college career. Of course, some regrettable things happened in those times. And now you're here in the Canadian Football League, thriving with the Toronto Argonauts, signing the richest deal of any player in the Canadian Football League. Does today kind of feel like the final step in your journey and kind of overcoming some of the things that have plagued you in the past?
Well, I think the biggest thing is really just having an opportunity to do something like this, right? I think, a lot of people could have rolled over and said, man, I'm done with this. I was coaching at one point in a small town of 500 people, JUCO football, and, I'm outside calling plays, and I'm kind of like, man, I don't even know where my life is going right now. And, to kind of have an opportunity to do something I love still and to be able to perform at a high level, I think, it's about overcoming obstacles and making sure that you stay focused, through all the ups and downs and still have an opportunity. And if you have your goals set high and someone says you're crazy, I think, aim even higher. So that's kind of what I've always thought of, is just have high goals and be able to, one day achieve them by hard work.
Chad, you talk about coaching football in a small town with 500 people. Is there a moment that you can look back to and say, that's just where things clicked for me, and mentally, physically, I was in the right place and I had confidence that I could get myself back to this place where I am now as the CFL's highest paid player?
You know, I'll tell you when my life changed. It changed about a year on the 23rd of this month last year. When I was walking to practice, it was about 2 weeks after my grandfather passed away. I was really in a dark time. I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, obviously I was being the backup here. I was having a great time, met a lot of fantastic people. But on my way to practice, I ran into somebody who now is my girlfriend, who's changed my life. And what I mean by that, I mean someone who just has a perspective that I've never, ever been able to understand, something so foreign and so different, and being able to understand where so many people come from, and just it's kind of amazing that something can just fall in your lap like that, you know, I've learned so much the past year that I can't even talk about it because there's just so much to talk about. And it's just, that's when my life has changed, honestly. It really has.
It's funny how timing is everything, because then shortly afterwards, in the fourth quarter of the Grey Cup, you're thrust into action because McLeod Bethel Thompson goes down with injury, and you lead your team on the game-winning drive. Like, how rewarding was that moment for you?
It's a fairy tale dream. It really is. And to have an opportunity to even go in there and help your team win, especially with the situation at hand and being down at that present moment, it was amazing. But, you know, like I said, I'm not here at this point if it's not for my teammates. You know, my teammates do so much each and every day to put their best foot forward and to execute out there on a daily basis, and especially on game day. And, you know, you look at our coaches who put us in the best situation, and, you know, there's so many people that I'd love to thank to get to this point. But, you know, all that from the Grey Cup on, I mean, it's kind of almost been surreal, but it takes a lot of hard work and dedication and focus.
Chad Kelly is our guest, the quarterback for the 8-1 Toronto Argonauts, fresh off signing a 3-year contract extension this morning, making him the highest paid player in the Canadian Football League. Let me ask you this, Chad. If you play the rest of your professional football career with the Toronto Argonauts in the Canadian Football League, is that something you would be satisfied with?
Heck yeah, no doubt.
Because there's been speculation, of course, the way you're playing, that there may be interest south of the border. Of course, you had such an accomplished college career playing Clemson and Ole Miss, but you don't think that's part of your future path? It's CFL is something you're committed to going forward?
You know, I'm so close to my family, right? And they're an hour and a half away. I got family and friends all the time that want to come up to games, and it's kind of a fresh air, you know. And it's honestly something I want to do forever, is to be close to my family and friends and let them come and see, you know, all the hard work that I put in, you know, 25 years worth. And, you know, I think this is a beautiful city, a beautiful franchise. You know, MLSE does a fantastic job with everything that they do. You know, we have a fantastic team too, and our head coach is amazing. You know, Mike Miller, the quarterback coach, gets me ready each and every game. I mean, there's so much to love about this place, and, you know, I look forward to being here, and I'm committed to being a Toronto Argonaut.
Well, Chad, you talk about your teammates, and, you know, there's such a grind that goes into it every single day, whether it's the practices, the games, the travel, dinner. You're with these guys so much. There's so much you talk about. How much do guys talk about the NFL while you're playing in the CFL? Is it something that comes up from time to time?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely comes up, but, you know, I think it's not really talking about, you know, the NFL itself. We might just be talking about, you know, some type of play that could be used, you know, up here instead of down there, and, you know, vice versa. But I think everybody around the CFL, you know, they put their egos to the side, and, you know, everybody just loves to play the game of football. And, you know, I'd love to, you know, let everybody know that this is a fantastic game. It's 3-down football, but it's so fun and entertaining. I know there's guys running all over the place, but it's super fun. It's exciting. There's big plays that happen all the time, and, you know, special teams is a big part of this game. And, you know, I think that's what is even more enticing to people watching the game is that there's never a dull moment, offense, defense, and special teams. There's no fair catches. It's every play someone's getting tackled or running.
Chad Kelly is our guest, the quarterback of the Toronto Argonauts. It's particularly fun to watch the CFL when the Argos are playing. Chad, I was there on Friday against Calgary. I mean, you guys were outstanding. Deep bombs to DeMonte Coxey to DeVars Daniels. It was so much fun to watch, and I'm really looking forward to this game against Hamilton on Monday, the Labor Day Classic. It's your hated rival in the Ticats, a team that are coming off a really impressive performance against the BC Lions. What are the Argos in store for with the Ticats coming up on Monday?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I know we've already played them twice, but I think this is going to be, even closer. We know it's going to be a hostile environment. We know they play fast. They have a lot of great players on defense. They're very intelligent. They're savvy, and we're going to have to overcome that. We're going to have to make plays when the plays are there, and we're going to have to run the ball. And it's about what Coach said, yesterday. We're the most penalized team on offense in the CFL. We got to make sure we play penalty-free football, and good things will happen.
Chad, congratulations again. Enjoy the dinner tonight with your girlfriend. Sounds like she's a spectacular woman, a spectacular cook, and enjoy that. Best of luck the rest of the way. We're rooting for you.
Thank you so much. Go Argos.
Go Argos. That's like a Broncos country let's ride from Chad Kelly. We appreciate that.
It's better than Broncos
way
country.
Better. Way better.
Broncos country let's ride is so nerdy.
He does the Go Argos to conclude interviews with Matthew Shinetti, Kenzie Lalonde on the sidelines.
I like it, Go Argos.
I like
it's
it
quick,
too.
it's simple,
I'm a big fan of Chad Kelly. In a number of respects.
I wonder at some point if I'm going to call you or text you and you're going to tell me that you met this girl that just has rocked your world and changed your perspective on life.
See, and here's the thing with Kelly, who had such significant personal issues that he dealt with. Man, he got kicked off the team at Clemson, got in a bar fight in Buffalo, was arrested for that. In Denver, he had some stuff going on where he got booted from the team then. Chad talked about going to coach at a JUCO school with 500 people in the town, and now he's the star of the Toronto Argonauts. And I think most importantly for Chad and for the Argos and for the CFL, and I know Dave Naylor was talking about this earlier on TSN, you hope that maybe Kelly and the stability of the position of the Toronto Argonauts at quarterback could give the Argos a boost in this marketplace that they so desperately need. And we're not going to go back to the 70s where the Argos were one of the top billings in the town, even the early 90s with Rocket Ishmael and John Candy, Bruce McNall, and Wayne Gretzky, the ownership group. But the Argos deserve more play when it comes to the Toronto sports scene because this team's awesome. They're scoring 33-plus points per game. They're an offensive juggernaut. They're a ton of fun to watch. And it's led by Chad Kelly, who is committed not only in the short term but the long term to this organization. I think it's fantastic for everybody involved.
And star power is so important,
no doubt.
Right? Because stars need to drive the bus on that, and Chad Kelly has turned himself into a CFL star. He's committed here, and he loves it, man. And listen, it just goes to show you his whole journey. If you're an athlete, you're so close. It seems like you're so far at times, but you really are so close. You're one phone call away from someone being injured, and you're there, and you got your foot in the door, and you have an opportunity. And Chad Kelly got his opportunity. He's made the most of it, and I completely agree with you. Like, if there is a little more star power, and he can kind of cultivate that, being the ringleader for that, the Argos become one of those things where it's like, maybe when TFC had Javinko here and people had to get down to BMO to go watch Javinko, maybe it's one of those things where we got to go see the Argos. They're so good. They don't lose. Chad Kelly's unbelievable. Let's get down there and see him.
Argos Alouettes, September 9th, 1 o'clock.
Or watch it on TSN.
Watch it on TSN. You're doing both. You have a live stream on TSN Plus on your phone when you're down at BMO Field so you could see the broadcast, no doubt. Maybe, Frank, you're right. You brought up the idea of Chad Kelly's walk into practice, runs into someone. Sounds like he's got a soulmate there who's going to make him dinner tonight anyways.
I just wonder when you're going to meet that special someone.
Maybe I'll be walking down Queen Street tonight and that happens to yours truly. Changes my perspective.
I know your dad listens to the show. I know he's listening right now. Yeah. I know every once in a while you get the old, when are you going to meet someone, Aaron?
Once in a while? Probably, hey, what's going on? Anything cooking with that?
Yeah.
Actually, a good story that I wanted to bring up. Maybe we can do this on the other side about Sophia Franklin. I don't know if you're aware of who that is. She used to host a podcast with Alex Cooper called Call Her Daddy.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
She does something absolutely insane when she goes on first dates. I'll tell you what that is on the other side. We still have Michelle Beadle to come in today's program, Michael Fabiano to get you ready for your fantasy football drafts. You're listening to Overdrive on TSN 1050, watching on TSN 2.
Let it breathe. That's the stuff right there.
Oh, bare naked ladies all afternoon here on Overdrive. Aaron Korolnek, Frank Corrado, little Jane. My goodness.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. An underrated catalog, quite extensive, with a number of big hits.
And like super Canadiana,
Agreed.
They never really sold out for that kind of American pop sound.
Kind of like the Arkells now.
The Arkells,
a good
Tragically
comparison.
Hip,
Yep.
Rush.
Well, Rush crossed over. Rush was more American.
Rush was
supported.
like progressive rock.
Yes, but I think they made it big in the U.S. They were very, very successful. While the aforementioned Bare Naked Ladies, Arkells, Tragically Hip, more Canadian focus.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
But still, the point remains.
Yes.
All great. We love the Bare Naked Ladies. So I did mention, Frank, before the break, this comment made by Sophia Franklin, who's a very popular podcaster south of the border, and she brought up how she's a single woman, and when she goes on dates, she insists, it's so ridiculous to say out loud, this is a true story. She insists to see the guy's bank account information on the first date.
What, like the checking account?
Yes, she's like, let me see how much money you have in your bank account.
No.
Yes, that is an insistence from her. What would your reaction if you were a single man, you're a happily married man, you're sitting on a date, maybe you're out, nice restaurant, Yorkville. Let me see your checking account to ensure you're rich enough to date me.
I would say beat it. You're not seeing my checking account.
Now, I would show someone my FanDuel account.
Yes.
Check that out. A lot of CFL winning wagers. Yeah, the bank account.
Crypto account. Yeah. Here, I'll show you my crypto wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I will say that's not even the craziest thing I've heard of late when it comes to dating stories in 2023. A friend of mine who is a woman sent me a screenshot of a guy who liked her dating profile. His profile picture was a picture of his T4.
No.
Yes. His T4.
What a loser. Are you kidding me?
It is so ridiculous.
Not even that wasn't even an unsolicited picture.
No,
that was just his profile picture.
It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do for work, what you look like. Here's how much money I made in 2022.
Oh. Sure, he's got a great personality.
I think it's a strong possibility that's the case, man. It's a tough world out there.
Really cool to hang out with. I'd love to have a beer with that guy.
Being single, not the easiest thing to maneuver through these days.
Okay, so you're a single guy. What do you do if you're sitting at Ruby Soho and you're chatting, chatting it up with some pretty young thing, and she goes, "Listen, if we're gonna take this any further, I need to see your checking account."
It has to be a no. Number one, because if she did see my checking account, she would be thoroughly unimpressed by the lack of money or by the amount of money in it. So that's number one. And it's just such a...
But it's such a fraudster move. You know why?
It's vain, very vain. What about an authentic connection, Frank?
Yeah, no kidding. But people with real money don't have it in their checkings account. They have like a portfolio where the money is working for them. This is pigeon kind of behavior.
Well, maybe she's checking out.
She's probably a pigeon.
Maybe she's checking out the TFSAs and the RRSPs, different contributions.
Could you
maybe
imagine?
She just
I
wants
need to see
T4.
your 401k.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you have saved for the future?
It's just such a preposterous story.
I will say though, is there like a certain level of attractiveness that warrants that kind of behavior?
Apparently so. Although I can't imagine this is common practice. But listen, she wants what she wants. She wants a rich dude. And that's why she's avoiding me.
It's
very
cringe
in Canadian sports media.
Yeah, it's very cringe. It's very embarrassing. Just a bad look all around.
I like up on TSN 2. Would you show your bank account info on a first date? Share your take at OverDrive 10.
I'll tell
People
you
are probably watching this at like the keg right now. I'm like, what are these guys talking about
morons
right now?
You know what I did when I first started dating my wife? I don't know if you've ever done this. Instead of getting like the normal Uber, I got like the Uber Select or the Uber Black. Yeah.
So I have a great story on this. I have not done this, but one of my buddies who will remain nameless was taking a girl out on a date. And what he did was from his house to her house, he took like a generic Uber. And then
a jalopy.
Yeah. And then when he arrived at her house, he orders the Uber Black around the corner, picks her up to avoid the fees from the initial Uber Black from his own house.
Yeah.
Fantastic move. I really respect and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And listen,
he's trying to put his best foot forward, man.
And now they're married. So it worked.
First impressions are everything.
Yes. Maybe I need some more Uber Black orders to get it going. Or maybe like Chad Kelly, the Toronto Argonauts. You just got to walk over to practice at Lamport Stadium on King Street West. And you find the love of your life.
Well,
we'll
the thing
cook you
is,
dinner.
like, I'll call you during the day, and you're just moseying around downtown. You're always walking around. I'm surprised you haven't met Mrs. Wright walking around.
Maybe tonight's the night, Frank.
It could be the night.
Tonight's the night.
Yeah.
You never know. Although we do have our fantasy football draft tonight.
It's not tomorrow night. Tonight. Tonight's more like you're in your boxers eating pizza.
Yes, there will be a pizza order immediately after the conclusion of today's program. Michelle Beadle, the host of Beadle and Decker on Mad Dog Sports Radio. She works for FanDuel TV. Lots to get to with her. She's a huge San Antonio Spurs fan. Wonder if she's cheering for Canada or the U.S. at the FIBAs. I'll explain that a little bit later. Plus, Michael Fabiano at 6:30. Talk some fantasy football. I'm Aaron Korolnek. That's Frank Corrado. OverDrive, Hour 3 is next.